Insert Animal Guy 001 reference here. Let's not beat around the bush for this part. I don't think anyone can deny this. Houndoom is pretty awesome. Okay, so I can ramble, or I can try to argue its battle capabilities. Well, taking a quick glance at its stats, it's a special attacker. Yeah, it's straightforward, but I will say this. They are very nicely distributed, outrunning a number of Pokemon while being able to do enough damage in order to make it matter. While at the same time, the defenses are on average, allowing for it to take a blow or two against things that are just too quick for it. So if it's properly set up, it'll definitely make its turn on the field really count. It also has a very nice combination of Fire Dark, which has yet to be replicated to this very day, and a sweet move Darkin Axis, Nasty Plot, which really does complement Houndoom's already great special attack. I think Karen pretty much proved how much of a threat Houndoom can be, especially when she switches out on a fire-type move prediction with its ability. And I'll be honest, Houndoom is probably one of few things to wall me off from completing the first part of my Heart Gold playthroughs, mainly because it imposes quite a challenge. I mean, I could level grind to an appropriate level, but that's not really fun, is it? Anyway, moving on to design. Well, there's certainly a lot I can talk about this. How about the fact that it looks like a Doberman? Onto more interesting features. What I really like is how demonic it looks, as far as the horns on the head and the shackles on its leg, and the arrowhead tail. There also appears to be a skull necklace structure on what appears to be a collar. It's just something that you look at and keep on thinking that it should take charge of the depths of hell. Heh, I said hell in something meant for kids. I'm like one of those old Disney movies.
Now shall you deal with me, O Prince, and all the powers of hell!
So, for the next one, let's take a trip to Lavender Town, because our next Pokemon is getting Marowak. I'm going to be honest with this one. This is actually one Pokemon line I have quite a lot of childhood memories of. Hauntar was actually an honorable mentioning of mine, since it was my favorite of the Ghastly line. But the Cubone line just has more significance to me. As a child watching the first season, there was just one Pokemon that I quickly fell in love with, and that was Cubone, mainly due to its design. But there's more to it than that. It also held the role of probably one of the more interesting events in First Generation. In Lavender Town, where Team Rocket was stealing skulls off of Cubone in order to sell for money, one of its mothers jumped out in front in order to defend its Cubone. After the mother was killed, it caused a poltergeist within Lavender Town, which started the origin of a section of our ghost Pokemon. And though it's not really deep, it can legitimately scare you as a child. But moving on to battle capabilities. This thing has great defensive power along with a pretty good attack power. It also has its signature move where it literally throws its bone like a boomerang. This attack has a base power of 50 and also always attacks 2 times, which can really easily break subs, as long as the Pokemon is not immune nor resistant to ground. And finally, design-wise. It's most likely that Marowak is based off of fossils given its dinosaur-like features, and also the bone representing dinosaur fossils. So it's essentially half living dinosaur, half dead fossil, and that's actually a very neat concept. So I guess you're wondering, why isn't this any higher? Well, back before guides existed, I didn't know where to get one. Also, being somewhat rare, I have to say, my experience using it is very limited. And what I think about it now is more important than what I thought about it as a child. But it's still a great Pokemon nonetheless. Yeah, I'm stuck in a cave. What's with all these friggin' Zubats? I don't even have Flash here. Where are my escape ropes? No! Well, I guess there's one redeeming factor about Zubat. Introduced in Gen 2, we have Crobat. And all I can say is that this thing is pretty good. While I'm playing through Johto, I usually think, Easy to get, tough to raise, but reward-wise, it is well worth it. So the highlight of Crobat is definitely the speed. It has a base stat total of 130, being able to reach a max speed of 394. But what I like about it even more is what you can do with it. Its stats are average all around, allowing for you to take down the Pokemon you just need to finish off. And hey, that's not all you can do with stats like this. Having access to Roost is probably one of the most unusual stall tactics by getting rid of its weakness that Flyings generally have, while being able to recover itself in the process. And also has the capability of trapping their opponents with Mean Look. With all of this is definitely a Pokemon that can cause a lot of rage on the other side of the field. And now, concept and design wise. It's a bat. Well, I don't have to be interesting every entry, but to wrap up this small segment, Crobat is definitely worth trying to get, and something that has saved my ass enough in cart gold to get on my list. Well, that was indeed underwhelming. Hey, I've got more Pokemon to show. You know, there's just something about this part of the countdown and putting some really creepy and dark Pokemon on it. If you don't want nightmares, I might suggest just skipping this segment. So, Pythagoras is not just creepy, but is also quite annoying to physical attackers in battle as well. With its monstrous defense in its physical field, as well as access to Will-O-Wisp, this thing is a monster to take down. And now that it has access to Pain Split in Black and White 2, it now has a method to sort of recover itself and put its foes into really bad situations. Oh, doesn't stop there. It can also use Attack Split, which is a stat variation of Pain Split, which, considering Pythagoras' low base power, that is literally saying Pythagoras, the physical troll. It also carries a very unique ability which cuts off the ability of anything that attempts to directly attack it. Now for something like Archeops that tries to attack it, that's a good thing. But for the most part, it can cause crippling side effects. For example, if Conkeldurr attacks it with the ability Guts and has a Flame Orb, it will now take a crippling side effect from the burn instead of benefiting from it, which can be quite devastating if used properly. As far as its concept, it's most likely based off of an Egyptian sarcophagus, and that might be a reason why I like it so much, due to how I find Egyptian references to be rather awesome. Also, according to the Pokédex entry, it eats trespassers and turns them into lifeless mummies. I'll just end off this segment by saying Iris was one lucky son of a bitch. Coming in at blinding speeds is none other than Weavile. With a base speed of 125 and an attack stat of 120, this is not something you want to take lightly in battle. He will own you if he's given a chance, which does fall into its obvious weak point. With Stealth Rock weaknesses, a number of commonly used weaknesses in metagame, it is rather difficult to set up and easy to break due to Mach Punch priority with 4 times damage. But after all of that, it has a lot of potential to sweep. It also has access to Ice Shards, with the physical strength to back it up, allowing for you to pop possible Choice Scarf Pokemon just in case. And now for concept and design. Just with a glance of it, it's something that looks really intimidating. Its sort of feline structure and weasel-like properties also makes this thing seem very agile. It also has a gemstone on its forehead, and a hairstyle that resembles something like a crown. But something else pretty interesting about it, according to the Super Smash Bros. Brawl trophy, it's said that trainers keep these things with False Swipe in order to hunt for rare Pokemon. Which, speaking of rare catches, this next one is rather coincidental on my list. What's this? Mew only at number 85? No! Wow, that joke is already getting old.
Hey Lady, you put him on number 1 on your overrated list. Why are you contradicting yourself now?
Oh gee, I'm so sorry if I find Pokemon fans to be so incredibly annoying. I'm sorry that I think it's stupid that they claim that people didn't have a childhood when others didn't beg their parents to go to some stupid overhyped event in order to get this thing, especially when I feel GameStop Keldeo is much more awesome. And I'm also sorry that I don't think nostalgia should be the only thing about a Pokemon that makes it good. It's not the Pokemon itself, it's the attitude towards it. But that doesn't affect how much I like it. So I will agree with the general consensus for this. It is indeed pretty cute, and not to sound generic for something that has already been talked about to death, it has access to any TM inside the main game, as well as 100 base stats across the board, allowing to fulfill any type of role within your Pokemon team. Now for something less generic. In 3rd gen, which introduced Natures and Eevees, this is even more true. And in 4th gen, with the physical and special split, its capabilities only increased. I should also mention, with access to Baton Pass, it is quite possibly the most bulky Pokemon within that field, which can provide insane support for your team. But I think I like it for a very similar reason why many other fans do. Its concept. Being an ancestral Pokemon, you definitely would expect, well, something else. But surprisingly enough, it's filled with a lot of joy, almost oblivious to all of the evil in the world, the ancestral being, almost innocent in a way, and its design cleverly looks like a fetus. Cute! But to wrap up the segment, Mew is definitely a great Pokemon, and maybe if it has more opportunities to get and use, as well as serve more of a role in the main game, I would like it more. But as of now, it stands on this spot of the list as my favorite Gen 1 legendary Pokemon. So we went from creepy, cute. Speaks for itself. Yeah, this part of the countdown is not exactly E-rated. So, I can't say I'm really fond of spiders, but Calpanchala is definitely something that gets my attention. Well, let's just say it's always nice to develop theories from some Pokemon. Being a tarantula, you need to wonder how it got its electrical charge. Well, the Chargestone Cave being Joltik's only habitat, it's safe to assume that these creepy crawlies took electric discharge from this cave and now have the power of electricity. Creepy, kind of cute, and provides a very interesting setting within Unova. But this is definitely a Pokemon that its concept definitely speaks with its battle capabilities. With a reasonable amount of speed and a high special attack power, with not the best, but a reasonable move pool, it'll definitely get the job done for you for some sleek revenge kills, or just merely to be your main electric type on your Unova journey. Mainly just because of how reliable this thing is. And as far as design, I honestly don't know what to say about it. It's one of those odd affections that I just really can't describe. Maybe I just kind of have a soft spot for creepy things. But still, it's yet another unique typing, and the stats really show for it. It's very easy to use, and it's worth getting one to add to your team. Also, it's a spider that can walk on 4 legs. Moving on. Here it is, the first fossil Pokemon on my list, and I don't see why not either. With incredible speed and a good amount of attack power, as well as being incredibly easy to obtain, this has to come somewhere in my favorites. So design-wise, I have to say this is one of the cooler looking Pokemon in the Gen 1 roster. Simple, but awesome. Well, it's a resurrected dinosaur. And being the first time where you could literally resurrect dinosaurs to be on your team, that's pretty cool. It's nothing too deep, but it doesn't have to be in order to make a pretty visually appealing design and a well-executed idea. In battling, I feel it works as a very solid lead with access to stealth rocks, high natural speed, and a large amount of physical moves within its favor. When equipped with a Focus Sash, it will ensure nice use of its stealth rocks and will take any hit to live another turn, which is also nice considering its ability is Rock Head, which gives it access to powerful recoil moves, while still being able to keep that last bit of HP in the progress. Its defenses aren't all of that, but hey, it doesn't have to be. But really, what places it here is how easy it is to get in Fire Red. If you get an Amber, then go to the Cinnabar Islands, it will revive into this monster that works really well for late Kanto. And for that, I almost always use this thing because no matter what team I make, it's proven to be very helpful for this point. But that's all I can say. It's accessible, it's powerful, and it's a Pokemon worth checking out.
Sweet semen of baby Jesus!
Dragna is number 82. I'm sure it's really easy to understand why I like it. Being the first pseudo-legendary I was exposed to, this was definitely the Pokemon next to Mewtwo that was the almighty and powerful Pokemon. And when you were young, you probably wanted one. And if you had one, then you probably managed to lose a lot of friends in the same process. Because as far as wild Pokemon go, next to Alakazam, it was broken. And I think Lance pretty much summed this up where you had to counter broken strategy with more broken strategy, particularly spamming Ice Beam. Yeah, Dragonite was powerful, mainly due to imbalance, and it has only improved. Though thanks to tweaks within the game mechanics, it actually is a lot more balanced now. In Gen 3, it has access to Dragon Dance, which can definitely pose a huge threat on the opposing opponent's team, with proper setup and its already natural bulk and already high attack stats. Generation 4 gave it extreme speed, which cuts through most priority, therefore making it even tougher to kill. And now, here we are in Gen 5, and it's got multi-scale, which makes it one of few Pokemon that can actually take a stab 4 times weakness to its face, as long as it has proper berry. It's non-invincible, but you have to admit, that is very impressive. So moving on to its concept. This is the first time we ever had, as us fans call it now, a pseudo-legendary. These refer to Pokemon with the same base stat total and also have some problems leveling up, which is one reason I just can't put it any higher. Yes, I know games have a trend of service and reward, but with Pokemon, grinding should not be something to give rewards. That's just the way I feel. Just remember, this is not a list of strongest Pokemon, and the strongest is not the best in my book. If there is one typing I seem to have the exact opposite thought process of what they're meant to do, that would go to the Psychic types. Many see them as these straightforward glass cannons of Pokemon. I think this is mostly due to Gen 1 being incredibly imbalanced, but honestly, I view them as more supporters to overcome disadvantages and Woobat. Oh boy, I know you guys are going to come at me for putting Woobat in front of Dragonite and Mew. So why did I? I don't know. I guess I enjoy slitting my wrist while making these scripts. Or maybe I just find use out of the majority of the Gen 5 roster. Literally, these are the only Pokemon that I found to have almost no point of being here, which they aren't even that atrocious in battle anyway. So back to Woobat. I think the main reason why it's here is because this is legitimately the only Pokemon that has access to Klutz, Skill Swap, and Trick. Imagine if Regigigas had Skill Swap. Imagine if Golurk had Switcheroo. Those Woobat stats aren't all of that. This is the only Pokemon that can pull off this type of strategy on your opponent. Problem with fast Pokemon? No problem, just give him a Lagging Tail. Problem with Levitate? Give him an Iron Ball. But that's not all it can do. It also has access to Simple, as well as Calm Mind. This is only complemented with the introduction to Stored Power, which Calm Mind gives it the same power as Psychic on the first turn used. Then makes it have a power of 180 with a total stack of 4 stages on Special Attack. And if you're going against Special Attack users, Roost is available for recovery during successful Calm Mind setups. So despite the stats, it can be very powerful on your team if built and used properly. But it's so ugly! Well, I guess beauty is truly in the eyes of the beholder. Really, when I saw it, I thought it was kind of meh in its first evolution. Then I saw its evolution. I thought it was cute. I don't know, I guess I'm just weird. And really, what did you expect? It's based off a bat, aka flying rodents. But something I think I like that placed it higher than Crobat is that it bears more similarities of what it's based off of. One, it emits ultrasonic waves. Though it does serve a different purpose than typical bats, the feature is still there, and it carries a rat-like tail that helps it hang from the ceiling. Though the tail doesn't normally exist, it's another thing that bats do. I just legitimately find it more interesting. But to wrap it up, it's definitely a very underestimated Pokemon that is at the very least worth trying out. And with that, on to the next Pokemon in the next segment.